Good morning, my friends. This is the Grim Flayer. I hope you're doing very well today, and welcome to another Grim gameplay video where it is a 5-minute deck tech followed by 3 matches, followed by a closing segment where we dissect the deck we just played, talk about how to beat it with midrange, and for those of you scratching your head saying, wait a minute, in the first couple Grim gameplays, wasn't it supposed to be a 3-minute deck tech? I don't know what you're talking about. I can neither confirm nor deny. At the end of the day, do you really think I can keep a deck tech under 3 minutes? Really, it's just probably not going to happen. So let's be a little bit more realistic here. And yeah, we're going to do a 5-minute deck tech, and it's going to be great. I am so excited about this deck. This is Ragna-Rock. It is a green-black rock deck, my single favorite archetype in the world in Modern, and it is built around Sarulf, Realm Eater, some brand new Kaldheim technology. So thank you for watching. Thank you so much to our 2 newest Patreon supporters, a pair of confidants, Christopher Ruiz and Sandins. Appreciate you. Very generous, my friends, and all the love in the world to all patrons, old and new. With that said, let's break down what is going on here in Ragna-Rock. Alright guys, so I've got a whole video on Sarulf. If you're not sure how to evaluate this card, why the interest in testing it, maybe check that video out. But in brief, this does several things that are pretty unique in the context of Rock. Number 1, it has a virtually infinite growth curve in theory in terms of the power and toughness. Number 2, more importantly, it is a repeatable board wipe that does not hit itself, and not just a board wipe, an exile effect specifically, which is something that Rock does not really have access to. And finally, it does reward us for playing our normal game of putting opponents' permanents into the graveyard, right where they belong, right? So, despite Sarulf being a little fragile and maybe get a little hard to have it really run away with the game all of the time, I don't think it's going to completely revolutionize the archetype forever. I do still think it is high ceiling enough and unique enough to be worth testing, and also very cool, right? Very fun. So with that in mind, we have designed a list here, and I say I basically brewed it from the ground up with a few specific principles in mind, but the greatest community in Magic, my Discord, also chipped in with some great advice. Thank you so much to everybody who did that. So basically, my thinking with Sarulf is that we want to play a boomer rock list. We want a higher curve. We don't want reliance on the low curve stuff because those things are more likely to get wrathed away by Sarulf. So we want to avoid the low curve when possible, all else being equal. And we also want to avoid the low curve mana sinks. We want things that are more immediately impactful or more immediately value generating, rather than the stuff that can kind of nickel and dime your opponent out of the game. So to that end, we do not see any cats. This is a wolf deck, not a cat deck, let's get it clear. No Lurrus of the Dream Den. Also, not a snake deck. No Hex Drinker involved, and no Scavenging Ooze either. So I think with Lurrus and Hex Drinker, it's a little more obvious. Why did I choose to play without Scooze? Well, number 1, we're testing out some other things in its stead. Things that more directly build around Sarulf. So Sarulf helps you exile things. Scavenging Ooze also helps you exile things in a more indirect, first to the graveyard, then getting exiled type of way. With that in mind, there is a little bit of unwelcome overlap, perhaps, relative to a card like Cheville, Bane of Monsters, who are playing as a 1-of. Cheville, much like Sarulf, also rewards you for killing things. And much like Sarulf, it is right along the Rock plan, maybe not as powerful overall as a card like Scavenging Ooze, but definitely a card that's pretty intriguing. I covered this back when spoilers came out. I think ultimately it's a little too cute to be a permanent fixture in the deck, but a reasonable and respectable fun of. We're also along the lines of playing the higher curve stuff. We've got Kalitas Trader of Get. Now, there is a little bit of overlap with Kalitas as well, and Kalitas is also technically a mana sink, but this is a different story than Hex Drinker and Scooze. Kalitas is at such a high curve that he will usually avoid Sarulf's Wrath, and if Sarulf has to Wrath the board, well, maybe we're okay losing Kalitas because we're taking care of an opposing threat that's even more impactful, and Kalitas is a pretty well-positioned card in the meta right now overall, and is also a very respectable card in a Boomer Rock shell. So, that is the story behind the creature suite, also 3 Dark Confidant for Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf not especially playing well with Sarulf, but we do have to present progressions where we can do a more normal rock thing rather, not every game will be winnable by taking it over with Sarulf, right? So we still want to be able to go discard into Goyf, into Lily a lot of the time, and then have Sarulf maybe in the back pocket if the opponent is able to withstand that progression, right? We also have a slightly higher density than usual of removal spells. They're pretty well positioned right now, and they also play really well with Sarulf, Cheville, and Kalidas. We have 3 Trophy, 2 Decay, 1 Pulse, and 4 Fatal Push, also 1 copy of Slaughter Pact, which is really spicy, allowing us to get a counter on Sarulf before the first upkeep, the first turn after having resolved it, and also playing really well with Kalidas, guaranteeing immediate value after resolving Kalidas, most of the time anyway. And that is definitely a nice inclusion if you ask me. We have 6 discard spells. We also have 2 copies of Cling to Dust, so between the Clings and the Kalidas replacement effect and the Sarulf Mass Exile, hopefully we have covered our bases in the absence of Scavenging Ooze as far as graveyard hate goes, and Cling to Dust also gives us some direct X for 1 potential that operates on a pretty different dimension from the rest of our deck and can be a way to just completely generate value in a more, I say traditional way, even though this is a relatively new card. Hope you understand what I'm talking about. We have a relatively traditional rock mana base with one exception. We have some snow-covered lands to make Sarul feel at home. I have rented some Zendikar Expedition Fetches and Shocks just because it is cool. I've never done that on the channel before. We also have 3 copies of Field of Ruin, 1 each of Hissing Quagmire and Treetop Village. So, Field of Ruin or Ghost Quarter both turn on Sarulf. They will give counters to Sarulf. They're well positioned in their own right. They also play well with the Realm Eater. Creature lands also play well with Sarulf simply because they will not be affected by a board wipe. After you're at the board, you can animate the Ape Village and you can go to town. The Wolf and the Apes, taking it to the house. The one that you might not be familiar with is Llanowar Reborn. This is a ETB-tapped mono-green utility land from Future Sight with Graft 1, typically seen as tech in Hardened Scales Affinity, but this same exact thing applies to Sarulf, just like with Slaughter Pact, you can get a counter before you untap without even having to spend any mana doing so. You might tempo yourself out a little bit early, but play Sarulf on turn 3, untap T4, wrath away all of their 1-drops seems definitely worth testing to me, and a Castle Lochthwain to round it out. This is a card that acknowledges, kind of like some of the other stuff, we do have to play a normal rock game too. Into the side. So, Sarulf, with the fact that it grows off of opponents' fetch lands, and the fact that it is an exile effect rather than putting things into the graveyard when you do remove the counters, those are 2 reasons not to play Ashiok alongside it. Because Ashiok shutting down the opponent's fetch lands while Sarulf would otherwise grow off of them, there's just some redundancy, some overlap. Now, if you really need Ashiok in the meta and you really think Sarulf is good, you can still play both. These are relatively minor non-bows, but it did give me kind of an excuse to brew without Ashiok, because I did notice that non-bow, and since we're playing a boomer list, why not just play the full 4 Fulminator Mage for our land hate alongside the main deck fields and trophies, right? Definitely seems fine in this context for testing. True Brutality, 1 copy of Liliana's Triumph, a card that I think people forget about more often than they should. This is nice because Edict effects are welcome in general. We know how good they are. They also, this gets around Leyline of Sanctity, which is really nice. There is Emrakul in the meta off of Tibalt's Trickery. This is an additional hedge against that, especially being instant speed is really nice there. And also, the fact that we just have such a critical mass of kill spells in the first place means that in a normal matchup where we're removing everything in sight, Liliana's Triumph is definitely very good there too. So I'm a fan of this inclusion. We have 2 Spellbomb, 2 Choke, and 2 Veil of Summer. All of those things need no explanation. And then 2 copies of Collector Roof, and because we are not playing Cat Rock, we're not shutting off our own baubles, it reopens the door to this little mischievous oof, and I think he's pretty well positioned right now, at least well enough for me to want to give him a go. So that, my friends, is the deck tech for Ragna-Rock. Let's play some matches. Let's have some fun. Alright, we're against a Lurrus deck. I think that means we want to keep this all removal hand. Sure, I'll keep. Especially with the opponent mulling, that is nice. They go down to 5. We're in an Avi mirror match. History of Benalia, Avatar on both sides of the table. Very exciting stuff. Okay, OP with a mull to 5. I guess it is Rakdos. I'm looking at a discard spell. Probably take our Decay. And our trophies will unmull them in a way. Indeed they do. But we draw... Let's go. We draw Sarulf. I think I'm going to play Lock Thwain rather than Catacombs just because it's going to keep their Scourge locked in hand if that's the difference here. Between them being able to do something proactive and not. Maybe it worked. Alright, we're going to keep right along that plan. Draw of a basic land is not very good, but we are at least holding up trophy, in theory working toward a proactive play of Sarulf. And we want to see opponent just like making land drops, yeah, so now it doesn't feel as bad to trophy them if we have to. They have a Sunbait Canyon, admittedly, to see more action, but still. They might just put Lurrus into hand right now. Indeed they do. Got it. We draw Cheville. Okay, Cheville, Sarulf, both accomplishing relatively similar things. I think I'm just going to play Sarulf because it's more mana efficient. It's going to let us go Cheville Trophy next turn. But it's nice to see the new tech. No matter how it ends up playing, it's nice to actually draw it when you're testing it, right? So we know about OP's Lurrus. We know that they're likely but not guaranteed to have a kill spell. They have fewer incentives to crack a Sunbait Canyon without a kill spell because they're going to grow Lurrus, but that's what they do. Hey, we get to see our grow Lurrus, grow Sarulf. Hey, we get to see that. They might just Fatal Push it here, though. Indeed. Hey, Sarulf, forcing an answer, right? That's definitely something. Do we want to play Cheville out into another kill spell that is almost certainly there? I don't know. Now that we've drawn Peatland, we can more feasibly just hold up our effects. On the other hand, Lock Thwain and Peatland incentivize us to kind of empty our hand, as does the prospect of opposing discard. So I'm going to play the Bane of Monsters out and dare them to come after this guy. The open jacket, the mustache. Do you really want to tangle? I don't know. Okay, OP playing out a Shadow. Well, playing out a Shadow into the Cheville. Well, I think we should just untap then if we're allowed to, and get a bounty counter. I've never played with this dude before. Let's put the trigger on the stack. Hey, there's the bounty counter. Bounty counter. Yeah, bounty counter. I tried to say bounty hunter and counter at the same time and said something else. We draw Fatal Push, which is pretty cool. Let's go for the push. Gaining 3 life, drawing a card, and drawing a Thoughtseize. Yup, I'll take it. There is indeed a Scourge rotting in hand. Opponent just lets us resolve. I think they should have respected Cheville a little bit more. But maybe, just maybe, they think that, like, the 1-3 is not something they can afford to spend removal on. I'm not sure. Okay, opponent gets one of our trophies here. Scourge still rotting in hand thanks to Cheville's life gain. Teamer Battle Rage rotting in hand because they can't stick a threat of any kind, really, much less a game-threatening one. We're flooding a bit. It's not great. I'm going to crack Peatland here pretty aggressively because we have so many good proactive draws. A backup Sarulf, that's cool. That's cool with me. I'm willing to go shields down on trophy for that. I can't imagine us really getting punished. Again, very happy to just see the new tech here. Still no OP's whole hand besides whatever they just drew. A 4th land is probably what they're kind of waiting on to go Lurrus buyback Shadow. And to that end, you know, one alternative line, instead of just taking away the push, was to simply take the Lurrus and allow them to continue having to decide whether Cheville is worth pushing. But they've drawn a bolt, and now Cheville's worth bolting. Very interesting. In any case, we can actually field and trophy to grow Sarulf pretty significantly. I don't think we're supposed to trophy a land, but I'm certainly willing to field one, especially because it lets us go. Field into Bob and still holding up trophy. All right, Sarulf getting us over the line here, it seems. Also another out to Shadows, if we need it to be. This is a great spot because a Shadow's a 1-drop, nothing we have is a 1-drop. Sarulf has exactly 1 counter, and it would have exiled the Shadow, right? Making it unable to be looped later with Lurrus. That was assuming the game was a little bit closer than it was. Anyway, that one felt pretty good. I'm going to play Liliana's Triumphs, Veil of Summer, and Nile's Spellbomb, most likely, are the ones we want. Willing to move away from Bob a bit on the draw. I think we should leave in all of our Sarulfs, Kalidases, Chevilles. Our list is frankly looking pretty great. Maybe I like Spellbomb more than Cling here. Can cut at least 1 Cling. Slaughter Pact has to go, actually, because it's non-black claws. Everything else looking pretty nice. I'm just going to go the full control mode, I think. Maybe cut another Bob. And 1 Thoughtseize. This hand's got to be a mull. It's too high curve, too low floor. 1 tap land and both Kalidases in the opener. I'm going to send it back, even though it's now 6 cards versus 8, and we mulligan to another 1-lander. So this one's looking bad. I'll keep it. I'll bottom one of our Lilies. This one at least is better than the 7 we kept, besides being down a card. But even though this is a really good 6, it's going to be tough to beat their virtual 8. They've got the Swifty opener, sure. I don't know if I'm more or less pleased to see that than I would have been a discard spell. We draw a 3-drop right away, which is not good. We need the 2nd land. Opponent's got Knight's Whisper, Teamer Battle Rage, Lightning Bolt. I'm going to take away Knight's Whisper. We're going to hope that they flood here. We're still going to have a problem due to Lurrus, but they draw Bomat Courier, punishing us for that Not that there's much better to do here, but I think we're just going to get got pretty badly here. Veil of Summer. Yeah, so do we just... Thought Seizing plays into the hands of their aggro and their courier, but we don't have another play to make besides holding up Veil and hope they draw and use discard. That might actually be not bad, simply because... Nah, we're still going to Thought Seize. Yeah, they bolt in response. This still saves us life overall when we take the TBR. Okay, they show us a land we don't know about. Probably we'll just put Lurrus into hand here. So if we had held up Veil, we'd be doing nothing. But if we'd held the Thoughtseize, we could Thoughtseize the Lurrus. That's all. Probably just completely redundant. Alright. That is enough for me. We are soundly defeated due to our mulligans. And going back to the drawing board here, we probably don't really want to do anything else. I think our setup here is totally fine. If anything, we could bring back a Bob on the play, which I think would be okay. But again, if you look at all this, maybe Kalidas is just a little slow that we can cut one for a Bob, even though it's a fine card here. Sure. Sure. Let's just get a functional hand. We'll be fine. Ask and you shall receive. It's a functional hand. I'll keep it. Would like to see a discard spell. And there's a couple things that are imperfect about it. You know, to get black online, we've got to go to 19, which means that Scourge won't be rotting in hand. But on the whole, a fair, balanced, solid, decent hand, right? Hope you going Swifty into Bobble. At the last possible moment. Not that we expect mutagenic growth in this deck, but you never know. We will go ahead and give her the old Fatal Push. The draw Liliana's pretty nice. I'll now run this Goyf out with relative impunity, knowing that we're kind of forcing the opponent to have an answer to it, as well as being able to not get buried by the Lily. Opponent will know whatever's on the top of our deck. We have to keep that in mind. Swifty into push. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Alright, OP knows about our Thoughtseize. Tempting, but that'll be good for a little while yet. So I'm just going to play the Liliana. It's really statistically unlikely that they have a third haste threat to really punish us for this, but they could have another Swifty or a Bomat Courier. That would be rough. I think this is clearly the best play, though, under the circumstances. OP with a Scourge, a Bauble, and passing, huh? Us with a Goyf. Okay, I think we're probably supposed to take up pitch Kalidas here. Or do we just pitch Thoughtseize? We have so many high-value cards in hand, it's tough to say. Maybe we tick up, and if they, like, respond with a Bolts, then we pitch the Thoughtseize. If not, we'll use it and pitch Kalitas. We get a push out of their hand. Alright, let's Thoughtseize away a threat. That's probably the other thing they have. Knight's Whisper. Okay, very rewarded. Very rewarded indeed. I'm just going to trophy main phase, basically, just in case they have protection spells. But this is a nice spot. We've got a Lily on 2, a Goyf in hand. Opponent playing pretty much off the top, although they're going to see 2, they have Lurrus to put into hand too. So it's anybody's game. But Lily's done so much work. Bomat Courier is the top deck for OP. That is nuts. That is such a good top deck, it is unbelievable. They get to make Lily unable to Edict. They then get to immediately cash it in, if they want, which they don't. Interesting. Okay. Sorrel for Elmeter. Okay, I think I'm gonna not activate Lily, which feels bad. Let's play Sarulf and force them to find a way to beat it before we get to start going to town here. It's also more mana efficient. I hold out the hope of being able to double spell next turn with, like, push plus Goyf. Man, that was a rough top deck. I'd be very happy to trade Lily 1-for-1 for any threat, but Courier in a couple different ways making us unable to do that. Sarulf has been grown, thanks to that fetch land. Now not boltable, which I think is clutch. It's also not pushable main phase. Let's see what the Realm Eater can do. Oh my goodness, OP rips Kolikin's command. Ah, the nuttiest top decks. So now we're behind. But can Sarulf solo the OP? Yeah, I think we're supposed to take this wipe on Bomat Courier. They can cash it in, obviously. Alright, let's do it. Oh, they don't. Wow, okay. I guess they were just sixth. Well, we don't get to punish them because we draw a stinking land. I'm going to play it just because we have another Kalitas to draw, basically. Or no, we don't. We sided one out. So maybe I could have held that for concealing info, but it's still fine to play it. Here's the problem. OP's free 8th card going into hand, giving them much less fail rate than we currently have. We draw a Fatal Push. Okay. It's not bad, I guess. It's action. But OP looking likely-ish to bury us here. But if they just go Lurrus buyback Scourge, we can push the Scourge, grow the Sarulf. The nightmare is if they just buy back Bauble and they have a removal spell for Sarulf, right? That is the nightmare. But if they just go Lurrus buyback Scourge, we push it, we untap, we draw a kill spell for Lurrus, they're actually dead. They're going Swifty. They're going Bauble. They play Swifty from the graveyard, Bauble from hand. Fascinating. All right. They might have a fatal push in hand with this sequencing, so I'm just going to untap. Lily of the Veil. Okay, nice. Now I don't care that much even if they do have a push, because we get to Lily away the Lurrus. And this is lethal if they don't have a push here. But they do. As suspected. Alright. I'm kind of proud of myself for seeing that. Not gonna lie. Maybe it was... Maybe I just should see stuff like that, right? Maybe it was relatively obvious, but still. I think we're rewarded, but opponents' draws have been really, really good. So... Still anybody's game. Seeing one land is a good sight. What else do they have? Not another K command. Not an... Okay, it's triple black. What's triple black? A Lily of their own, maybe? Nope. Tapped incorrectly. Uh-oh, there's the red. You gotta be kidding me if it's another K command off the top. Oh, no, no, no. It is! Ah! Alright, well, we can't do anything about these types of top decks, guys. Here comes Lurrus, here comes the bauble. Fire Design, OP. Am I right? Well, our deck honestly has looked good. These top decks would beat normal rock progressions, just like they're beating this one, but we do rip another Sarulf, so we're seeing a lot of the wolf, and the opponent can still just flood. You know, if they flood, we draw a kill spell, that's game. They quote-unquote only are seeing 3 new cards if they want to dig with Bauble. If they want to just buy back a threat like they do, they keep buying back Swifty. I understood why the first time, because it made sense with their sequencing. They just have a lightning bolt, too. So they never don't have kill spells. All right. I think we've been out top decked one too many times here. The lifelink with Lurrus. There's a Cheville. We'll play him. But feels like it slipped away. Again, we need them to totally break off from here. It's just not going to happen. This has been fun games, but it happens to me a lot with Rock. You're competitive and the companion breaks the symmetry really badly, which is one reason why it's nice to adapt companion of your own, which is not really what we're able to do here with this list. Opponent just keeps drawing 2-for-1s. That's a Knight's Whisper and a Fatal Push. All right. We're basically dead, but even if we're not literally dead, I think we've lost. Might as well play it out, though. They have a Shadow, too. Absolutely nutted. And we have a Fatal Push a little too late. Good games. I think the Lurrus, or the Cheville Sarulf package looked great here, but OP's top decks were a little bit too strong. I'll keep this one in the blind for sure. Inquisition into our choice of Bob or Goyf. A few looks at a third land, specifically black one for Liliana. Definitely seems fine. Double Fervent Champion and a Lightning Bolt. So some kind of Stoneforge package, we assume. I'm going to take a Fervent Champion, although that is not clear. If we didn't have the Lilianas in hand to edict the other one, I might have actually just taken Bolt and said, okay, you've got the little synergy with the champions buffing each other, but ultimately you have to find a way to, like, answer Bob, right? Cavern of Souls naming Knight, that is a heartwarming sight. Alright, Verdant Catacombs, a nice draw. So now we get to grow the Goyf. It was already out of bolt range, now it's a little bit bigger. This could be a Blood Moon deck. Either way, I'm happy to get Swamp because we don't need too much green without Scoos. And we're setting up for the Lily Edict next turn, assuming they don't find another creature. So, this is rewarding our Inquisition decision. Goyf holding off the attack, you love to see it. Assassin's Trophy is probably a fine card to just have around here in this matchup, but for now it's clearly Liliana Edict you. Beat face with a Goyf. Opponent just kind of taking action here so they can 6 through the turn, but it actually punishes them because it's going to grow the Goyf, putting both instant and Planeswalker into the bin. They're taking 2 unnecessarily here, unless they have a Path to Exile, but they can't cast that off Cavernous Souls, so bit of a misstep from OP. Probably won't be the difference maker in the game, but also, broadly, it is good value for us. Oh, is this just like a Knights deck? I guess so. Alright, well, let's keep edicting with Liliana's. That seems good. Drawing an Abrupt Decay, obviously good too. Goyf just taking it to the house. This is why, as tempting as it might be for testing to build even more around Sarulf and Cheville and Kalitas, you still just gotta have your rock core in. I think you can move some stuff around. You still want to be able to do the exact rock curve that we did, discard into Goyf into Lily, the classic one, in so many matches. Lily getting 2/2 for ones, edicting a threat, drawing lightning bolts. Very nice. I don't think I'm going to field them here. Turning the Battlefield Forge into a mountain is probably good for them, right? So if they have to tap Forge one more time, they are dead even to a Bob hit. Knight of the Holy Nimbus. This is from Time Spiral. Human Rebel Knight, flanking. If it would be destroyed, regenerate it. But we can stop it from being regenerated by activating the ability. I've never played against this card online. You probably have to click it first like you would with, with Leon and Arbiter. So that's good to know. Hey, if you ever run into Knight of the Holy Nimbus in your leagues, my friends. Alright. I think we're just going to stop it from being regened. Go for the Abrupt Decay, and attack for the win. I would be tempted to Thoughtseize for more information, but that's going to be good enough. All right, so we're against what looks like a kind of Knight tribal theme. I'm sure Stoneforge Mystic is in here, and maybe Aether Vial, so I'm leaning toward Collector Oof. Otherwise, Brutality and Triumph both look really good. And I'll probably trim a Thoughtseize because our life total matters. Maybe trim 2. Shy away from, Cling to Dust. Seems like a really good matchup for us, though. Maybe I'll only play 1 Oof because, to be fair, we haven't seen the Stoneforge package, and I'll also cut a Bob on the draw. Looks pretty easy to me. Alright, I think this hand is just good enough to keep, especially against a mulling opponent. I think even if they kept 7, it's just good enough to keep. It doesn't do anything turn 1. Abrupt Decay is really carrying this hand, but it has the Sarulf Slaughter Pact synergy, which is exciting, and obviously Goyf was pretty unstoppable last time out, right? There's a turn 1 Fervent Champion, okay. Oops. Downside about playing Slaughter Pact is you can't freely 8 through your turns. You technically can take an action here. Not that we want to lose the game to our own trigger, but if we were feeling especially unhappy, I guess we could take that line. Liliana in hand seems okay. Obviously, you got to draw another black land to get her going, but Inspiring Veteran. This is looking more and more just like Knight Tribal, which is cool. There's a lot of decent Knights, 2-mana Lord. Again, you expect Stoneforge Mystic to be kind of baked into the cake with the power of Fervent Champions specifically, but maybe that's not what we're doing here. Alright, I'm just going to pass. Hold up Abrupt Decay for the most opportune target. If they did have like a Stoneforge Mystic coming down, we might start reaching the point where we can't quite answer everything that they're up to. Leonin Sky Hunter. Okay, straight up Knight Tribal. Another Fervent Champion. Okay, well, we gotta decay the Lord because they're going so wide. But even so, the Knights buffing each other. They're just putting a lot of bodies on the field. However, if we can draw an untapped third land for Sarulf, we can Slaughter Pact the Sky Hunter and then wipe the champions. That'll be great. Let's do that, because that's what we're here to do. And that's also probably how we don't lose this game. Let's go, we did it. It's a shock land, it's painful. Don't care. Sarulf Realm Eater. So, if we Slaughter Pact right now, then we outgrow bolts. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Very exciting times, and granted it's against Knight Tribal, not a modern meta deck, but, neither is ours right now, right? Not quite. We're closer than they are, but, again, if they eased back on the Knights a little bit, maybe played a little more, maybe the Stoneforge package, and a little more of a hate bear style, that's kind of what I first expected. Let's see if they can answer Sarulf. I'd hate to see a Skyclave Apparition right now. It's a Knight Exemplar. Oh, I feel so bad because this now is confirmed literal Knight Tribal. Not the most meta deck, but Knight Exemplar is really good against Rock if you can't answer it because everything else is buffed and has Indestructible. Sarulf does not care whatsoever about Indestructible. So opponent sees that and therefore is going to just get 3 in before they lose both of these Knights. We might as well block 1. Just make sure I'm not missing any text here to save the 3 life. And to be fair, we're not out of the woods yet, but Sarulf is going to hopefully carry us here with a board wipe followed by a Lily Edict for what remains. Oh no, we can't play Lily this turn because of Slaughter Pact, yeah. Boom. We'll see you later. All right. Got to play some D behind Sarulf. If the opponent draws another Lord, we'll be a bit punished for that, but we have to hope they don't. They only have 1 card in hand. Nice. You love to see this card getting some action in Ragna-Rock. That's all we came here to do, my friends. Ooh, this is another Knight Exemplar it is. That's a little scary. Again, the Lily Edict going to be clutch here, but they get to punch 3 damage across. We could start getting bolted out here. Layered indestructible effects is definitely rough. This Edict effect is like the only thing that could answer it. Inquisition, cool. They definitely seem to have gas in hand. Hopefully we take like a bolt away here. Or another Knight Exemplar. Fiendslayer Paladin. Oh, so much hate for us, but we get that out of the way. Here comes Lily. Growing the Wolf. Beating the Indestructible Lock. This is good, clean magic, my friends. This is really fun. And the wolf grows. The wolf grows. Very exciting. But we're at 5. We gotta hang. Gotta be cool. It'd be really nice if the opponent just, like, drew a bolt and decides to main phase bolt the Lily. They shouldn't. They should allow her to tick up if that's the draw, but that would play into our hands nicely. What's triple red? Magus of the Moon! Okay, you know, I said they should probably play some Hate Bears. Apparently they are. Yo, okay, that makes some sense in this deck. So obviously not going to remove the counter here. Alright, our other Lily is locked in hand. That's pretty rough. We're not anywhere near to finding 2 black sources, so I'm definitely going to ditch her to start edicting again next turn, but for now we thankfully can at least play a Tarmogoyf. And believe me, I am sitting back here. I want 2 big blockers to protect our life total and our Liliana in the event that they can remove one thing. They draw Ether Vial. Alright, Vial confirmed. Good to know for the purposes of oof, even if we still don't know that Stoneforge is in. Sarulf can wipe the Vial. We should... should we do that? That's actually not bad. But I'm going to say no for a turn. We want to give ourselves more options than that, I think. But it's not bad. Draw another Goyf, that seems pretty good. Cash in the Lily, see who they pitch here, or who they lose. If they lose the Magus, our whole hand becomes live, and that's amazing. I guess Collective Brutality is an out to indestructible stuff too, but not when they're both anthemed. Alright, this is going to be a nice finish, my friends. A photo finish, if you will. So now we get to Brutality away this Knight, grow the Sarulf even more, slam another Tarmogoyf. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Hit you for 10. This is classic rock action. Alright, so opponent put some decent stuff together there. Ultimately, obviously, their deck is just a tad underpowered. There's a lot of pieces there for Knight Tribal, but without so much interaction on a stick, it's just like decent quality threats. Probably not good enough for Modern. We will not remove the counters. Why is opponent playing this turn out? Let's find out. What do you have, OP? Maybe it is Path to Exile. They can pass Sarulf, stay alive for a turn. I don't know what else it could be. They could Vial in a blocker. Oh, Lightning Bolts. They're going to see if we got greedy with our fetches or something. So close. Knight Tribal close to stealing a game. Looks like a fine keep to me. Discard into Bob into a couple removal spells. My only regret is that we cannot graft Bob with Llanowar Reborn. How OP is a 3/2 Dark Confidant, am I right? But maybe we'll find an actual good target for Reborn later if we draw our namesake Build-Around card, our Ragna-Rock card again. So we are against Izzet Prowess deck that didn't keep any threats, I guess. I'm just going to take Bolt. It's the highest quality card in their hand. Strangely, their keep is rewarded against our specific hand. Our only threat dies horribly to Lava Dart, among all other things that they play. Hey, unless we set up the graft, then maybe they need to find something better than the front half of Lava Dart, right? I was just joking when I said that, but maybe it's actually good. And also giving them time to set up, right? And potentially time walking us a bit if they don't present removal targets right away. So is it Blitz? And look at that, we draw another Fatal Push, so we will actually be setting up the graft onto Dark Confidant, the deep tech. People say, oh, you know, against Prowess, you gotta kill their threats, you've gotta interact really efficiently, every point of life matters. No. That is all details. You've gotta set up the combo of Llanowar Reborn and Dark Confidant. Simple. OP will scry at the top. Shocking in the Steam Vents. Alright, show me a Sprite Dragon to push. Show me that. Haha, ask and you shall receive. No thank you, I will not grow the Prowess threat. They do that just fine enough on their own. See if OP goes for the mutagenic growth here. No reason not to give them that bait, right? They don't. I think wisely we are telegraphing Fatal Push pretty strongly here. We got Sarulf. Alright, that's the combo, right? That's the combo we've been waiting for. So, sorry, Bob. I thought you were going to be Lava Dart, one half of Lava Dart proof this time for once. Instead, we're just going to make a 4/4 Sarulf, which is way better. Sorry, Dark Confidant. You're still bad against Prowess. I take it all back. I'm so excited. I've played such few games, and we get to see so much of Sarulf, and we're getting to see the Slaughter Pact little synergy, and now the Llanowar Reborn synergy. Whew. Grim gameplay is being kind to me today, even though we lost to the Rakdos deck. That is fine. It's not about winning and losing, it's about showing the spice and having fun. Sarulf gonna be a big headache for the opponent here if they cannot, like, immediately kill it. Like, if they just have a lightning bolt, they get to bolt and dart it, that's fine. If they don't have that, yeah, things could get a little tricky for the OP. And because our life total is still pretty high, even though they're set up for a big turn this turn, we know they've got mutagenic growth and opt and we're tapped out. If only we also had Slaughter Pact here, that would be the nuts, right? I'm going to take the hit, though, because we have the ability to wipe that. Or push it if we want to keep our Sarulf huge. Either way, I think we're not supposed to allow them to engineer a trade here, which they obviously can. Sarulf is too important, so do your thing, OP. And at this rate, I think I am likely to just push it and make the Sarulf like a, 6/6 is probably what it will be here, at least. Because we imagine they're cracking the fetch land, we're pushing the Swifty. Maybe they shove even further by cashing the Steam Vents in, or a mountain they get off Mesa for a bigger Lava Dart-related turn. I don't know. But either way, Sarulf is set up to be huge. And don't get me wrong, under a lot of circumstances against this deck, it would be fine to say, okay, we do get to assign the block here with a 4/4, and opponent spends a little resources to deal with it. That would be good too, but under these circumstances, I think this is where we want to be. That said, opponent does also have a shock effect, definitely making it a little bit worse for us, but they don't shove quite all in with a Lava Dart. So I'm going to decline to remove the counters here. We're going to make Sarulf big, showing the versatility of the card. And I'd love to just draw a Tarmogoyf here or something. Or another kill spell to hold up. No. Verdant Catacombs, huh? I think it's probably better to crack Peatland here than to play Bob. Could get rewarded with the draw of an Inquisition. Alright, we'll see how effectively Sarulf can race this Blitz deck here. We know opponent's only card in hand is Opt. They have some really good top decks, but we have a Maelstrom Pulse still in hand, which is really clutch in terms of answering a Stormwing entity or something, but honestly, we're getting to the stage where we could remove counters to do that too. Definitely good news that OP just has to begin with the Opt rather than like finding a Swifty and opting into something awesome, or Sprite Dragon or whatever, and just stealing the game from us. They opt to the bottom, and then play a land. Pretty good news for us. Showing off some of the beautiful Zendikar Expedition, the original Zendikar. We'll say no to Sarulf's triggered ability. And Lily of the Veil. That's our play. Piction Bob. Yeah, opponent flooded here at the crucial stage. So they're down to 3, facing down a 6/6 Wolf. We've got a Pulse in hand, a Lily on 4. They're playing with 1 card off the top. Not going to be good enough. There we go. All right, post side against Blitz. Brutality ×2, Triumph ×1. Probably about it. A Spell Bomb isn't the worst either if we have a lot of cuts to make, which I think we actually do. 3 Bob have to go. At least 1 Thoughtseize has to go. Everything else looks good. Yeah, I like generally playing exactly 1 copy of Thoughtseize against most Prowess decks and most Shell, so I'll just play both copies of Spell Bomb. I think that's fine. They are a Lava Dart and Bedlam Reveler deck most of the time. Definitely always Lava Dart. Most of the time, the big Rev is also in there as a 1 to 2 of. That does vary, but Spellbomb a relative free roll in this matchup, even if they don't happen to be on that tech. Well, we've got our 1 Thoughtseize in the opener. I'll keep it. I'm definitely happy enough to see it. It's a fine hand. We've got balance, a little more pain than I'd prefer. You know, Thoughtseize could be Inquisition, Peatland could be a Fetch Land or a Blooming Marsh, but ultimately discard into Goyf is good. Also, you know, Trophy could be Decay. There's lots of things that could be better. But we do have a solid hand on the whole. One about which I shall not complain. Oh, we're reaching the stage of the day where the kiddos start going a little crazed upstairs. I hear some big stomping above me rather. If you hear a wobbling style sound, know that that is what's going on. All right, I'm going to take the Sprite Dragon here And I do apologize, by the way, if that's what you hear. I'm going to take the Sprite Dragon. Entity requires a little more setup, also doesn't come down until turn 3 unless they rip one of the enablers off the top. And if that encourages them to, like, Vapor Snag the Goyf that we'll play on turn 2 just to get the entity down, ultimately that's value positive for us, specifically because all of this possible because we have a trophy in hand. If we did not have trophy and instead had the decay I wanted, well, we would have just thought seized the entity, most likely, right? Opponent fetching main phase. Looks like they got something to do here. They rip the enabler. They rip Monomorphos. That's a rough one. Again, granted, we can just answer the entity, but it's really good value for them. They can play more judiciously with their 1-mana spells in hand than they otherwise might. They get the scry value earlier, although admittedly we get to mess it up with trophy. And it also forces us to play interaction instead of interaction threat. Go back to interaction, which is the preferred play pattern of Rock. And they go top, so this is going to feel good to force them to shuffle those away, or force them to deny themselves the bounty of a basic land. We draw another trophy, which at this point, we'll take any removal, that seems fine. Just main phasing it here. Which, yeah, you know, post-side, maybe the whatever protection spells might be floating around. Who knows if they're still in, but with a card like Stormwing Entity, I'm just not really going to take my chances. It will snowball really hard if we try to get greedy with a tiny little bit more value and end up getting blown out. By the way, I don't usually love mismatched basics, but I love that they're all Onslaught Mountains. You gotta love that. I use this one in Jund. It's really, really, really nice from Sam Wood, if you ask me. This one's pretty cool, too. Okay, OP, whoa, going off over there. They found light up the stage. Some good top decks here from OP in this game, too, for sure. And Light Up finds Entity and Swifty. So opponent keeps finding all kinds of real good stuff here. All right, they go one top, one bot. Once again, we can mess it up with a trophy. All right, I'm going to fetch main phase because we're definitely interested in casting a Cling to Dust. So we want to hold that up. And this way we don't turn on their Light Up the Stage. And yes, it can make their turns more efficient if we just main phase the trophies. But again, I'm saying let's make sure we answer Entity and then take the rest from there. They also have a Vapor Snag to compete over removal too. Let's not forget that. And I don't know how many basics are stock, but maybe at some point we'll start running them out of basics. We also get to represent Fatal Push pretty hard this way, although we don't have it. I don't think the Steam Vents is in their hand anymore. That's what I was scrolling up trying to find while they resolved their scries a turn ago. They had events in hand T1. They played at T2. Okay. Okay. OP's not sure what they're doing over there this turn necessarily. Do they have another entity? It looks like they were trying to make double blue, and they have 5 mana total. Alright, let's cling away a spell. Wow, we're just flooding pretty bad, huh? Whoa! Yeah, I guess so. Okay, let's just hope Tarmogoyf can kind of solo them, because we are not really doing anything else here. I'll play the peatland here, because I have every intention of cracking it, and sequencing this way rather than cracking it first does represent things better, maybe preventing them from shoving as all in as they might otherwise. And with respect to Vapor Snag being able to be used reactively in response to removal, as well as proactively to get a prowess trigger and bounce our blocker, I think we want to give the opponent as many questions as possible, right? So, as much to question as possible, that's what I was trying to say. But OP has definitely found a lot of good stuff at good times, and under a lot of circumstances, I'd still be feeling pretty good. If we'd drawn a normal proportion of lands to spells, I'd be feeling pretty good. Remember, we can also X for 1 with Cling, which in a way is an incentive not to crack peatland, but I still think we should. Like, we just have such a high density of such powerful cards. On average, it's probably better to be more efficient. And also, how many times can we realistically tap peatland? Probably not many. So... uh-oh, just a lava dart? That means they found either another light up or another entity, most likely. Or 1, 2, 3, they could just be kind of emptying their hand a bit for a Bedlam Reveler. That'd be a little rough too. And they value the 1 damage higher than bouncing the Goyf, but that's probably incorrect if that's what they did, right? Either way, opponent tanking a bit here. Another Lava Dart. Okay, I think this is an all-in shove with Vapor Snag on the Goyf as the cherry on top. And that speaks to, why we don't just, crack peatland first in case there's something we want to do. Really, we're just going to play Goyf anyway. This way we're bluffing. And we're bluffing a lot. Wow, they have the entity as well. Okay. Very, very strong progression from OP. We can still beat it, though. We just gotta, find 2 good spells on the top. Two kill spells, or maybe 1 kill spell that's castable while redeploying Goyf. There's that Vapor Snag, so all we've got is the ability to crack peatland. And there's a Fatal Push, very nice. So that's one half of the equation. The other half is our 3rd trophy, or a Maelstrom Pulse. We can take care of the whole board, or a Liliana. So we got a lot of really good draws in that regard. If not, we just get to go push, play the Goyf. OP totally playing off the top. We'll maybe have a couple turns to find something. Cling to Dust is also around. Inquisition, a pretty bad one, though. So... that is a bit unfortunate. We are just going to keep main phasing our effects here. Opponent has showed us a willingness to shove all in even when we're bluffing, so... Alright, we're dead to a few draws, that's for sure. Even if they brick, they'll put us in bolt range. So it looks like this one is probably going to slip away from us, but Stranger things have happened. Okay, OP's got a Swifty. Doesn't change too much, I guess, but it's definitely not a total brick. Castle Lock Thwain, probably not what we want to see. Yeah, we're dead. We don't... Well, we could draw Slaughter Pact. Okay, so let's play Lock Thwain. Let's cling away a spell. Let's try to draw Slaughter Pact. I don't think it really matters what we get rid of here. We draw another land. Okay. Strong progression from the opponent. We flooded abominably. I think we drew more lands than spells. Just wasn't quite enough to keep up with OP. On the play, I think we don't change anything. I think it's exactly how we want it. Veil of Summer's cute against Vapor Snag and so forth, but that's not the game we want to play. Run it back. A solid enough keep. Lots and lots and lots of interaction. Field of Ruin looking a little awkward because it cannot cast Abrupt Decay, but we desperately want a third land anyway. We can at least cast and hold up Spellbomb off of that, which is pretty important, I would say. But for this turn 1, I'm just going to hold up Fatal Push. It's not like we get that time walked if the opponent doesn't play a threat, and they most likely, yeah, having kept 7, they most likely will. Inquisition. Nice. Light up the stage, Lightning Bolt, Monomorphose, Stormwing Entity. Yikes. If we take the light up, they get to go Monomorphose into Entity, which I wouldn't mind that much if we had a third land guaranteed. But if we just take the Monomorphose, they can still go Mutagenic Growth into Entity, and they have an X for 1 with Light Up the stage, so maybe we're supposed to take Light Up. Hope to just draw the... Well, okay. Sorry, they need a target creature for Mutagenic Growth, so that's not quite correct. Ultimately, I think it's relatively borderline either way, though, and we do have a kill spell in hand. We just simply need to draw the third land. And it needs to not be a Field of Ruin, I should clarify. And there is definitely a little value gained for us off of them kind of having to use Monomorphose as an enabler rather than having a wide board and using it as a free roll pump effect, but ultimately, no Izzet player is going to complain about getting a turn 2 entity on the back of Monomorphose without having to go down a card to do it. That might have been incorrect, but again, light up this, like them just going Bolt into light up is really bad for us too. I think this will prove to be rewarded if we draw an untapped colored third land this turn. They go 1 bot, 1 top. Alright, come on, let's go. Let's go, top deck. Nile Spellbomb. Bruh. Okay, well, I'm going to begin by using this Spellbomb on the opponent. And there it is. It's just 1 card too deep, huh? Well, that's unfortunate, but you know what? Let's just, like, not die. You know, we're still at 20. They get one big hit with Entity. That sucks, but it's not like situation from which we cannot recover. And guess what? There's always the chance that they have another entity in hand now, right? So what if they go Bolt, Growth, play a second entity, we get to pulse them both away, it'll be incredible. The opposite happens, they play a different threat. This is the type of kind of staggered sequencing that can be a little tough for us to handle when we have stumbled, which we have, make no mistake. Having all those chances to see a third land on curve after keeping a 2-lander and not getting there, that is a stumble. But we are still competitive here. Sarulf is a good answer to Soulscar Mage, as is Abrupt Decay. Is this an all-in shove with Lightning Bolt? It appears to be. Makes sense. So yeah, if we can just stem the tide just a tad, the opponent's top decks. Lily of the Veil. Alright, that's another answer. But clearly we just have to pulse here. Try not to die this turn. Try to take it from there. Once again, I think this Steam Vents might be out of the OP's hand. I got the kids talking right outside my door, so I don't know if you guys can hear that. A little hard for me to focus on reading this. That is okay. They go straight to attacks. You know what that makes me suspicious for is a light up the stage. Let's hope not. Wow, then nothing, huh? Okay. So with them having nothing, holding a couple cards in hand, I suppose, and also with Field of Ruin making us unable to cast Decay while holding up Spellbomb's activation, I think we just play Liliana here pretty easy. Well, unless they're holding up Permission. Spell Pierce? Okay. Yeah, that's... Sure, you got us. So technically, Abrupt Decay would be better there, but that's not... I don't know if that's correct to have in against us. It's even if it is correct, it's a pretty low odds thing. I think on average, Lily's still better there. But we do get punished. That is for certain. Tarmogoyf. Alright, surely there's not another Spell Pierce in hand. We go for it again. It's the right play. If they have another Spell Pierce, then God bless them, right? There's not a 0% consideration to simply wiping the board, or wiping the graveyard with Spellbomb, right? Because if they are sitting on a Bedlam Reveler and they draw an untapped 5th land, or they fill up the graveyard a little bit more, we could get buried by that. I also don't really lack for action in hand, so we don't strictly need the draw off of Spellbomb. But, I think on average, like, they haven't showed us a Bedlam Reveler yet, right? It's not that likely they have one. Yeah, they let it expire. They also, 1, 2, 3, 4, they had 2 floating. If they had fetched there, we might have Spellbombed in response, just to give ourselves that chance to respond. We draw Slaughter Pact, which is probably pretty great. As much as I love Sarulf, I think at this stage it's probably correct to pitch it and ride Tarmogoyf plus removal spells to victory. What is OP doing here? Floating blue in response, then fetching. Yeah, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Always feels a little weird to be over 10 minutes ahead on the clock. I don't know if what I should be anticipating here. Okay, they had an Ether Gust. Got it. Another reactive card, sure. Now we definitely want a Spellbomb, I would say, for a variety of reasons. Number one, making Bedlam Reveler a non-factor. Number two, we can double spell alongside the Goyf. Number three, we still have enough mana to do everything here, including the free cast of Slaughter Pact at some point if need be. So, Nile Spellbomb and Field of Ruin were both pretty clunky here. Fortunately, the opponent, after a really good opening hand, has stumbled enough to give us a pretty good shot here. I don't anticipate losing from here with all this removal in hand and a Goyf and a Lily. Goyf back to a 6-7 after OP draws and then cracks a Fiery Islet. We've drawn Kalidas, who's great in the matchup, but uncastable right now, so I'm pretty happy to tick up and lose him. Once again, leaning all in on removal. OP has flooded. You hate to see it. Are we conceding? Or are we thinking? You know, I like the Grim gameplays to be a little faster paced than this. It's okay, though. This has been some good back and forth, and that's ultimately what we are here for. The interaction. Rock has got that tendency to slow down proceedings a bit. At the same time, I think a lot of people would be scooping here, but OP's got something to fire off here. What is this? A kicked Burst Lightning. Okay, that's actually terrifying. That's actually terrifying, because if they draw another one of those, we're dead. Unless we draw a life gain this turn. Got it. Well, I didn't think they had outs. I guess that's an out. No, it's not, because we've got Cling to Dust. Beautiful. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave Lily at 3 and hold up the Cling. That way we can cast a removal spell if we want to. Or if the opponent's got another Burst Lightning, we can respond by gaining 3 with Cling. Nice draw. Giving us assurance from opponents only out, as far as I would be able to tell. And with 3 minutes on the left, after a good series, opponent will concede. Ragna-Rocked against Izzet Prowess. Rocked him out. Okay, my friends, so that was a Ragna-Rock Grim gameplay, and I'm honestly really happy. We just had a lot of fun, a lot of good back and forth. That last game went on a little bit long for my taste, but, not everybody plays at the same pace. That's okay. I'm just mindful of my viewers, too. That's the only reason I really care. I still had fun. I hope you did, too. And I was kind of setting out saying, okay, with some of these Grim gameplays, like, I'm brand new to the deck. Like, with Burn, for example, I'm just gonna play like 3 matches and see what happens. But with this Ragna-Rock, I'm like, okay, everybody on this channel's seen Rock a million times. I'm willing to kind of like sift through gameplay to find ones where Sarulf sees a lot of action and is relevant. Honestly, didn't even really have to do that. I played 2 other matches before I got these 3 done in the course of doing so, where we won against Mono Red Prison and against Mono Green Tron, and I just didn't even draw Sarulf, and Sarulf might not have been as relevant there. It was just the traditional Inquisition or Thoughtseize into Goifer Bob into Liliana, really taking those decks down. But in, overall 5 matches, and Sarulf was a major factor in 3 of them, and we won the 2 without it. So, against top meta decks too, besides the Knights tribal deck, which was spicy, and maybe also had some hidden power that we were fortunate to fade with Stoneforge Mystic. Who knows? That was my first thought. In any case, it was still a really cool use case of Sarulf, so I was happy to include it here. That is what's going on, and we also had some nice moments with Cheville. Kalidas, I think in one of the matches we didn't end up showing, was also pretty sweet. But we did also see the bit of a non-bow with Liliana and Kalidas. If you're not flush with lands, often you will have the incentive to tick up and pitch Kalidas, which is why when all else is equal, I like to err on the side of the low CMC. Hex Drinker and Questing Beast, for example, I used to evaluate as roughly the same power, and it was a different metagame and all that. But, with Lily ticking up, you can at least dump Hex Drinker out and get your hand empty and make the +1 asymmetrical. With Questing Beast, sometimes you can't. Same issue here with Kalidas. Of course, with a Ragna-Rock build, all else is not equal. You want to err away from the really low curve monosinks, right? Because Sarulf will just have to wipe them at some point anyway in a lot of matches. Anyway, we saw the Llanowar Reborn synergy. We saw the Slaughter Pack synergy. It was really cool. There's not an enormous amount to say here, but I will spend a few minutes in terms of how to dissect this list and how to beat it with midrange and all that, because it's a rock mirror, it's a midrange mirror. You guys know how those go. Traditionally, the thinking is to side out all discard spells and bring in all value pieces from the side. Times have admittedly changed. For example, I do not advise doing that against Jund. Number 1, because Jund has so many ETBs now, so many X for ones like Spyro and Croxa and Bloodbraid Elf. Times are different from when that was a more locked-in great thing to do. And also, in the past, you used to have, cards like Fulminator Mage used to be more common in sideboards and also used to be more effective in mid-range mirrors than they currently are. And you used to have a lot of multi-purpose cards in people's mid-range sideboards for mirrors and for other things. Kitchen Finks is a great example. It was a slam dunk against Burn. It was a slam dunk in a BGX mirror. Now it's not necessarily good enough to do to see play in either. Obviously, if it was in your sideboard, you'd bring it in, but are you registering it these days? Not as often, anywhere near as you used to. So I hope you understand the point there. If I was in a direct mirror match, I would be looking for Liliana's Triumph and Veil of Summer and Nile's Spellbomb. I wouldn't really be bringing in Fulminator Mages. Maybe depending on the progression, you could leverage a Collective Brutality, but probably not. Doesn't kill Cheville or Sarulf or Kalidas or Tarmogoyf almost ever. It only kills Dark Confidant. Everything else kills Bob too. Leave the brutalities out. So yeah, we would probably end up siding out some number of discard spells, and frankly, maybe kind of like we did against some of the other decks here, we'll side out a Bob or 2 on the draw. We'll lean more heavily into them on the play. Slaughter Pact is also a little sketchy. Of course, only killing Tarmogoyf in this particular build gets a little bit better if the AOP is on Skoos and Hex Drinker, right? But so you guys know how that works. Just a brief note on a card like Cheville. So generally, you want to kill on sight. The nightmare is that Cheville gains value. Even if it's only one time gaining 3 life and drawing a card, that's still value. The real nightmare is that he snowballs completely out of control and kills everything that moves while crashing in for 1 damage every turn, and then eventually presenting a trade with Death Touch and also drawing a bunch of cards on the way. So you do want to kill this guy and other ones like him that are conditionally advantageous on site. However, you can sometimes get a little bit of value out of your opponent. Note that if Cheville leaves the battlefield before the bounty counter marked creature does, then they won't draw a card off of Cheville. Your Cheville opponent will not. So if you have some hand information and if you want to kind of bait the opponent into using removal on a low value target, maybe you're playing like Jund or Gruul and you've resolved a Spyro, and you just have like tokens and a 2/2 on the field, and your opponent puts a bounty counter on one of them, and then they have like a sorcery speed kill spell that they wouldn't normally want to point at that board, but because they can gain 3 life and draw a card, they probably will. Maybe you can leave Cheville around, respond with instant speed removal to bait that out. Just knowing how that templating works, if you run into this Ragna-Rock deck or a similar one, if you run into Cheville in general, is nice. Similar incentives do apply with Sarulf in that if its wipe is likely to be relevant, it is a kill on sight. If you have damage-based removal, it is also a kill on sight before it gets any bigger. You might look at your board or your hand and say, well, it's not going to grow. I wouldn't count on that. Just take care of it. You're going to be trading up on tempo at least, right? However, there is also that conditionality about this, both in terms of getting the counters and in terms of having to wait until the next upkeep. So similar timing restrictions are placed on the Sarulf controller. You as the opponent might be able to leverage that, and obviously the same applies to Kalidas too. Not because it's restricted by any kind of having to move to the next upkeep, but just because they'll almost always be tapping out for Kalidas, right? So that's why Slaughter Pact is so 200 IQ. Anyway, beyond that, again, you guys know how to approach this matchup. Watch out for the Llanowar Reborn synergy. That's really, really cool. Obviously, you don't expect to see a carbon copy of this in Leagues anytime soon. This, again, was for fun, and also to kind of stress test Sarulf within the bounds of reason and rationality, right? We're playing a lot of supplementary cards. We're building around the card to a degree, but not to an absurd degree, not to the point where we forget exactly what we're here to do on the rocks. So I hope this was a fun league for you guys. I told you I'd play Sarulf at least once. This is the at least once. It is a build around. Maybe in the future in leagues or in a different rock shell we can include Sarulf. Probably not built around quite so much, but could definitely be a role player. I'm eager to see what kind of mark this card makes on the format and in what shells, because Rock is a synergistic but perhaps imperfect shell. There might be another one out there that's even better. What else was cool here? I don't know. I think we just had a lot of really decent gameplay. We had some fun times. It was a pleasure to use different lands. Thank you, Card Hoarder, for the rental program. We got the Zendikar stuff. We got the snow-covered stuff. You love to see it. Didn't end up using the Quad Fulminator plan against anybody, except for that Tron matchup that I did not end up showing because none of the spice was relevant. So thank you for watching. Thank you, all Patreon supporters, so much, especially our 2 newest ones, Christopher Ruiz and Sandins, a brand new pair of Inquisitors. You'll love to see it, and I hope you had fun with another Grim gameplay video. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments. Let me know if you've tested any other Kaldheim tech in Rock. Another Kaldheim piece or 2 I want to test. Maybe some of the stuff we've covered. The gods, Egan, God of Death, Tergrid, I believe her name is, the Lantern flip card. God of Fright, is that right? Something like that. We could find some cool rock shells for that, or maybe we could test Egan in the Rakdos midrange shell. We will have to see. As always, I would love to hear what you want to see, and we'll see if we can accommodate that. Thanks again, and I will see you for the next video. Hope everybody out there has a wonderful day.